that other people who want to see this later can check it out, and let's get going. So first thing, I'm the one speaking here, John Lincoln, co-founder and CEO of Ignite Visibility. I've been a digital marketing consultant for well over 10 years. I eat, sleep, live, and breathe this stuff, and you can tell I'm excited to be speaking with you about it today. I've also been a teacher at UCSD since about 2010, but recently haven't been doing quite as much of that just because we've been busy with Ignite, which has been growing quite a bit, which is of course a good thing. Also a writer for Inc., entrepreneur in search engine land, and author of a book called Digital Influencer, a guide to achieving influencer status online, which is for sale on Amazon now. It's one of the top sellers in the marketing category on Amazon. Very proud of that book. And then we also have with us Alan Bush. Alan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Alan Bush. I am the Director of Strategy here at Ignite Visibility. I work mostly with the SEO team, but basically I work with everybody. And I'm also a teacher of SEO at UCSD. Right now the quarter is going on between 6 and 9 on Tuesdays, if you want to pop in and say hi. I also hosted 2 internet marketing related podcasts. I also do a variety of other podcasts as well, but the more recent ones have been not internet marketing focused. I've been in the business for about 10 years myself. I've done some at PPC as well as SEO, but my specialty is SEO, so that's why I'm here.
Awesome, and we just had our first question. We are recording this, and we will send this out to everybody later on. Just to give Alan a little bit of credit, he's been teaching SEO for at UCSD for a long time. Really knows his stuff. So a great person to have on this webinar.
Yeah, appreciate it.
So what we're covering today, there's a lot, and it's tough for us because as a digital agency, Ignite Visibility, we don't just do SEO. We do conversion rate optimization, we do email, we do social, right? And so what we're seeing is that, you know, things are changing online a little bit. It's nice to have omni-channel marketing, right? A variety of different types of marketing, but specifically for SEO, what we're talking about today is AMP, backlinks, artificial intelligence, home devices, fresh content, social factors, Schema, HTTPS, Amazon, Facebook, voice search, just to name a few things. Alan, what else do we have on the dock?
Yeah, we got branded search, covering certain things about penalties you might want to pay attention to, types of content, and that's not just copy, JavaScript and Ajax, mobile, international SEO, the length of content, image optimization, your conversion rates, CTR, multimedia, and also your UX and design are going to play a big factor here.
So we've got some exciting stuff to cover, a lot. I would imagine we're looking at about 30 minutes or so, maybe more. But just so you know a little bit about us before we dive into all this great content. So we're a full-service digital marketing agency. That's Ignite Visibility. We focus on SEO, social media, PR, paid media, conversion rate optimization, email. Those are kind of our main core services. We've got 35 employees now and about 100 clients, and we've been named the #1 SEO company out of the United States, and we're very proud of that award. Also, top firms in social media, local SEO, and paid media, and we're a premium Google certified partner. We were one of the fastest growing private companies in San Diego last year, and we teach 2 courses at UCSD. And really, when my business partner and I, Krish Coffrin, started this company 4 years ago, we created it to really over-deliver for clients, get them ROI, and create an agency model that's going to get people a big return. So that's a little bit about Ignite. So first thing we want to talk about today is AMP. And for me, I'm actually really big on AMP for a number of different reasons. But before I go into some of my favorite parts about it, Alan, why don't you tell us a little bit about what it is?
Yeah, so the Accelerated Mobile Project, and pretty much late last year, or late 2015, Google started this area where it's serving up content pages faster on your mobile devices. So you basically hook yourself up to this thing called AMP, and the HTML takes content and delivers a faster response time. So it really was originally intended for news media outlets, but it's now spreading across all websites.
That's right, and so really AMP is being used specifically on a lot of blogs, on information sites, and it's getting good results. When we switched Ignite Visibility to AMP, we saw a lift in traffic of about 30%. And really this is a bit of the future of search engine optimization. AMP is a very easily digestible format that can be taken from any website and used to display content. So if you do AMP, you have a very good shot of showing up in the Google carousel at the top of the page. You have a very good shot of ranking incredibly well, especially with Google's mobile first index coming out, which we'll talk about in a moment. And it is the future technology that Google is pushing, and we've already seen clients getting great results for AMP. So if you're looking at your SEO planning for this year and you haven't done it yet, make sure that you fully evaluate it. Now, what I'll say is for large enterprise websites, which we work with some large sites, medium sites, and small sites, but for large sites it can be tough. And for these type of things, you want to think about what's your specific rollout strategy there, right? And what I mean by that is which sections do you want to start with AMP first? What are going to be the easiest? And generally, you'll want to start with a blog. You want to start with information areas, but we're even seeing e-commerce sites make category pages with AMP. We're seeing pretty much every type of content is now possible to be AMP ready with this markup. Alan, anything else to add for AMP?
Yeah, this actually also is in Search Console. So people who are familiar with what used to be Google Webmaster Tools, Search Console also has a section related to AMP. So it's pretty important if they're including it in there, what they're looking for in Google. So pay attention to that. It'll give you some feedback on how if your AMP pages are working or if there's any problems with them.
So the next thing that we have here is just a little bit of information about backlinks. So backlinks are still incredibly important. And if you don't understand what backlinks are, basically to rank well in Google, you need to get links to your website. And they've been one of the strongest ranking factors for years and years and years. But what we're seeing now is that they're slightly losing strength in a way, and we have studies that show this, one that's actually linked to here. And it's almost being replaced in a way by artificial intelligence. Alan, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, and this is actually a good thing because for a while people are basically trying to game the system by just getting a bunch of links back to the website, and people who are familiar or have been in the industry for a long time, they know that that used to work back in the days. In the early days, you just point a bunch of links and it would work, and then all these penalties and things started coming out to say, okay, we need to curtail this. And more, it's being replaced with semantic knowledge and the structure. So Google is trying to think like people, and so therefore the links that are pointing to you should have some context behind them. So always focus on quantity and quality. You can get a good amount, but make sure they're good quality and relevant. So don't want to go into quantity too much anymore. But like John said, they are important, but make sure they're semantically related to what you're trying to go after.
That's right, and I can tell you guys with a great piece of content now that's been super well optimized. It's long-form content. You've got optimized images in there. You've got multimedia. Everything's been set up correctly. You can push that live, and you can rank really well nationally without even any major linking, right? And we'll talk more about that in a moment. And then if it's interpreted well over time, then eventually you're going to get those top spots. When I say interpreted well, I mean that artificial intelligence digests it. They see how people are responding to it online. It's got good click-through rates, good time on site, stuff like that, right? So backlinks, still important, very important, but you just want to get these big links from highly credible sites instead of a bunch of kind of lower tier links like people used to do back in the day, and a lot of people suffered major penalties from. So we're seeing that those really aren't helpful, and in a lot of cases I just wouldn't even want to have them as part of our backlink profile for a client or for our own site.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we just talked a little bit about artificial intelligence, and this is just a huge deal on a variety of different levels. One with the home devices and the assistants and all that, and it's actually a really exciting time just to watch these things unfold. But there's also this kind of core element to it that was announced over a year ago, but is still an important part of Google, and that's RankBrain. Alan, you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, it's don't think Skynet. It's not trying to. It's trying to learn from what your searches are. It's basically machine learning. So basically, the computer is teaching itself how to think, and this is going to be increasingly important in terms of what types of content and, like I said, semantics is really an important role. So make sure your content reads well and keep it updated. That's one of the biggest things. It's becoming an increasingly big factor here, and I feel like people really need to pay attention to not just the keywords, but the language around the words. What's the intent of the words, because Google's trying to think like a person. And so the better they can do this, they're using now artificial intelligence directly, rather than just queries and algorithms to pick, the keywords and extract them. It's going to be thinking now, so you have to think with it.
That's right. And we have just seen this be such a big factor. I love it. I'll tell you why. I mean, the whole backlinking thing, sure, it brings some credibility to the search results and whatnot. But for me, in a way, it felt very forced. The machine learning, I'm excited about the future of search. I think we get to make better content now, and it's actually just turns it into this content, kind of battle, if you will. Who can make the best piece for the search result, not who has the best links or who hired, a company to kind of game the system and build them a bunch of poor quality links so that it ranks better. Those type of things in the SERPs always kind of infuriated me. So the future is definitely headed in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. I've actually had a situation where I've actually ranked a website, got 3,000 searches a day with very little backlinking. The only backlinking I did was talking to different forums and different social media outlets. And that was it. The content spoke for itself, and people shared it, and then basically people learned to equate the brand with the keywords. And so therefore, backlinks were almost irrelevant, or they were gained with how they would prefer to be naturally. So I can attest to that myself, and that was just on a personal site.
I've had the same experience, Alan. I'm so glad you brought that up. I mean, I launched a personal site and took it up to about 3,000 organic searches a month within a matter of a month or two. And that's really big. And that was the result of the buzz that was going on for the website. That was the result of this really high quality content, getting people involved, emailing people when I mentioned them. And so that was very successful. But one of the things I'd like to talk about next is the voice search and personal assistance, and this to me is kind of the core of the future of search. Alan, why don't you tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah, so if people haven't seen, there's these devices that sit at home now, and you can say, okay, Google or Alexa. It's the Amazon Echo and the Google Home. Basically, you can just speak to it, and it pulls up searches. I had a friend do this actually. It was speaking to their device and to turn on some music and search for certain queries and all that stuff. So the idea of voice search is going to be more prevalent. John, you just showed me something earlier about where the voice search was working on your phone. Yeah, it's going to be a big deal, and not people. It's just hands-free. I mean, that's the idea behind things anyway. Where you don't have to even be on your phone. You can just talk to it, and it'll pull up the best results for you.
That's right. So voice search is growing, right? So last year it was about 20% of searches. Now it's around 30%. And the most important part is that there's a core technology at the center of each of these voice searches. And for us as search marketers, we need to be able to harness that. And I'll tell you, I was just up at Moz speaking with Rand Fishkin about this, and it was just a great conversation. Really things that we need to understand are that it's very personalized content. For us, we need to make sure that the content is directly related to the query, that it's marked up properly with things like schema.org, which is a way to basically tell Google what certain pieces of content mean so that they can interpret it well and they can deliver it through these personal assistants. And really, when you're making a piece of content online, you want it to be the ultimate hub for that piece of content. You want it to answer every single question there could be on the topic. And if you do that, you're going to see huge, huge returns. So it's about investing in one large, great piece of content that answers every question, opposed to creating lots of little pieces of content. Now, there are some changes with these personal assistants in the way that they search data. It's much more exact. There aren't quite as many queries that are listed. Now, you can click to see more queries, but it's changing search in a way. I'm excited about it, and I also think there's going to be some awesome new advertising opportunities around it too on the paid media side.
For sure.
So these are the devices that we're talking about on the home side, and I think what's really important for everybody to understand is we're talking about kind of two different things here, right? So you've got your mobile device and you've got the personal assistant that's associated with that, right? But then you also have your home device and the personal assistant associated with that, right? Now, the goal of these companies is to have one personal assistant and that whole idea of the Internet of Things, right? And that one personal assistant that basically infiltrates all of the products, right? So it's been this kind of long-standing thing. It's people are looking to win the login, right? So you log in with something, and no matter what device you're on in the world, hopefully then you have your personal assistant and your personalized results. The two major players are Amazon and Google. We do believe Facebook's going to be coming out with that as well. Amazon, over 5 million Echoes have already been sold. So that's a big deal, right? So that type of home device is growing a lot. And then, Alan, we're also seeing the Google device climb as well, right?
Yeah, Google Home is a big player. I think Amazon was kind of the originator, and Google's now trying to catch up with them. So, but Amazon made this big push play with this, and this is a huge deal for them. So, yeah, this almost sounds like sci-fi. I remember like maybe 20 years ago, this was like science fiction, and now it's like right in front of us. We just talk to something and it pulls up results. So basically you make sure your products are optimized and include descriptors, your content that answers the pain points, and be a part of the shopping experience. Amazon is the leader in the actual e-commerce shopping now, so you got to be a part of it.
So for us, it's like whenever we see a new device or a new technology, we think, how do we take advantage of it? How do we use it from a marketing perspective, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. So what we're doing here at Ignite is looking at all the different data feeds that are basically being used for these devices to deliver information, to make purchases, right, to get your products in front of them. And by mapping that out, we're able to help our clients become a part of it and make sales. So we've got some great data on that already, and something that we'll definitely be doing a future webinar on. So now I want to talk about, this is a little bit back to basics, right? But we talked a lot about content today. And fresh content is one of the easiest ways in the current landscape to rank well in search. What you're looking at here are actual rankings for Ignite visibility, right? This is our website, and I stand by our work. Our traffic's up about 80%. Year over year for organic search, and we drive a couple hundred leads a month, and a lot of it is by doing similar processes to this, right? So one of the things you see here is that for Instagram search, we rank position 27. So what I can do, and what you can do for your website, is you can use a tool like SEMrush. You can see that this has search volume of 300,000 visitors per month. You can go in and update that content, make it better, build out a hub of content. When I say hub, I mean having all the information on that topic on one area, and update that often. And when you do that, that ranking is going to go up every single time you do that and every single time you improve, right? You can see that when I'm doing this analysis, I can see that for SEO Company USA, we're ranked number 4, a great ranking. So I'll want to update that page, and we're ranked for Best SEO, position 8 on the first page, a great ranking. So I'll want to update that page and make it the best page also as well. Alan, we do this strategy a lot for clients. Anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a huge fan of this whole thing about repurposing content, looking at old content that might have some quality behind it, and then either repurposing it or using that as a link from newer content. It's just one of those things that just keeps working, and it's just adding more content, repurposing the old ones, transcribing videos, for example, is another thing. And we have like 92 different ways. You can actually look on the Ignite Visibility website, but to repurpose your old content. And a lot of people don't take enough advantage of these things because they feel like, oh, that content's old. So I would recommend, if you have things that are timely, also create more like evergreen content, things that are going to last throughout the years, because then you can go back and look at these old pieces of content and then bring them up again. And like I said, people digest content differently, so don't just think copy. You may do it with graphics or video or audio. I love audio myself, and not just because of my voice, but also with podcasting, you can basically reach, or maybe an online lesson or something, reach an audience when they're not even in front of their computer. They can be on their way to work listening to your content. So think about how the different audiences that you may be buying or going to your website or digesting that content, and then repurpose it and build it for them.
That's a well said. And just one other topic that I talk about a lot in my book. I talk about it a lot to clients. We preach it here at Ignite. Having a platform where you're creating content, you become a thought leader, you attract buzz, you attract backlinks, you do all this stuff naturally, right? So whether that's your blog, whether that is having a podcast, whether that's doing YouTube videos, I believe that it brings something to every single business to have some element of thought leadership. And updating your older content is an important part of that, right? Because if say you Google something on the Panda update and you get an article that I wrote 4 years ago that's not updated, that doesn't make Ignite look good. It doesn't give you the right information. It makes it so that the machine learning element of Google, you bounced quickly. You know, there's an element of that there. So all this stuff is tied in together. It's important to think about every single URL on your website as a advertisement for your business online that you need to curate. So curating content over time, that's how Wikipedia has become successful. That's how all of these big sites do well and rank well over time. And it's something that if you do on the micro level or macro, depending on the size of your business, you're going to see a lot of success. And so that takes us to content hubs, right? And when I say hub, I just want to make sure I'm clear on this. So what it is basically one area where you link to all the best resources online, maybe that even aren't even yours. You make sure that it's a couple thousand words. You've got videos on there. You've got all the facts, the statistics. You make sure this page of course, has keywords in it and is optimized correctly. You're linking to all the blog posts you've written on the topic. And by having all these things together in one area, you've created one awesome piece of content. Alan, tell us about hubs.
Yeah, and actually you see a pretty good example, not to kind of plug Ignite, but the SEO page is a big content hub. It has multiple layers and categories explaining what these things are, a lot of good keywords for the people who are old school, but then the semantic language around those words is embedded in there. Images, videos, all those things can be incorporated into one good page, and then links to other pages that are actually relevant. And those pages that they're linking to can also link back to that hub page as the main source. So in an element, you're creating these kind of micro kind of sprout pages that are outside of that, linking back to the main hub and determining the importance of that. And again, utilize video and images and link to important articles. Also, don't be afraid to link to other articles that are not on your website. This is also a good outreach tactic if you haven't noticed. You know, a lot of people will just use their blog or content hubs to just link to internal things. Yes, you want that to be the focus, but if you have relevant articles, you're basically tying that information from your website to their website. And then in some cases, they'll notice it and link back to you. Or at the very least, you're connecting those dots that if they, you know, they should give yourself credibility. It's like adding a bibliography to a book. You're saying, okay, this is where I got my resources, or here's another good resource for that. Don't link to your competitors if you can help it, unless they're, you know, friendly competition. But for the most part, don't be afraid to utilize external linking as well as internal linking.
And we'll just touch on social factors real quick. One of the things that I like to do is, if I write a blog post, it gets a couple hundred shares. And it doesn't matter if I'm writing it for Entrepreneur, Inc., Search Engine Land, or Ignite Visibility, or a brand new website. Not brand new, but at least a couple months under its belt. If it gets a ton of social shares, right, then it's going to shoot to the top of the rankings without any backlinks, right? It's that quick indexing factor, and something that we try to do for a lot of clients here through social media advertising, and then also just through our influencer marketing strategies, right? So social factors for sure are a ranking factor inside of Bing. And we know that, right? But inside of Google, they've been very, they're not a factor, right? But what I can tell you, based off of looking at hundreds and hundreds of blog posts or more, if they get a lot of shares quickly, that's going to help you with ranking. So know that social is important. It's just going to increase in importance. We do a ton of social media here, and you can drive huge spikes in traffic. So make sure that you do have a social presence. It's incredibly important for promoting your blog. So now we're jumping into Schema, and Alan, we touched on it a little bit. Just tell us a bit about what Schema is, maybe what your favorite types of Schema are.
Yeah. No, for sure. So schema.org is actually the three major search engines, Google, Bing, and Yahoo, got together and decided a markup language that was compatible with all three of them, that you could use for showing rich snippets on websites. So if some of the examples actually you see in the webinar, you type lobster bisque, you get these star ratings and the calories and the reviews and how long it takes to cook, all immediately in the search results. So essentially, you can mark up your website so that with certain queries, you get different types of information that's served up to you. That's a better, rich experience. This is good for SEO for a variety of reasons, but even if you think about it in terms of like your eyeballs going to these things, you click on that more naturally if you see the star ratings or if you see the calories right away. So these things actually just help with the click-through rates more importantly. My favorite ones are the ones that we listed here, the event ones, because they give you such great information right up front. The recipes is a really big one for a lot of places. Even things like breadcrumbs, which is a tactic used by a lot of e-commerce sites and blogs, where they serve up which links are going up there. You can see at Ignite Visibility on Yelp has a breadcrumb schema attached to there. So those are my three favorites. I don't know if you have any things that you like.
The one that I see a lot of people miss, and by the way, it's really important how you configure this schema. If you do it incorrectly, it does nothing. But the one that I like a lot, that I think a lot of people miss, is the search box schema. I'll tell you why. If you're a big website, and we have some sites with here that are huge, right, like 10 million to 20 million visitors a month, right, and then little ones too. But if you don't use the site link search box schema, what happens is Google will basically show your website, and they'll show a search box so people can search your website inside of Google. If they do a search inside of that box and you don't use the site link search box schema, what happens is it just shows more Google results, right? So, but if you do use it, it kicks them into your website, and you just made it so that Google, instead of getting Google another page view, right, so that they can sell more ads and they can make more money, you got them into your website, so now they are clicking on your search results, and they're able to find information through your site. And that's the name of the game, right? A lot of the things that Google does, they want to increase their own revenue and page views and time on site and all that stuff. But if you know the right strategies like this one, you can kick people into your site. So now we're into HTTPS, and this is actually, you have to do this. And we won't be too long on it, just because some websites are probably on HTTPS already. But what I want you guys to know is Google is now actually giving people penalties for websites that are not on HTTPS, that are collecting information through forms. So if you have a form on your site and you're collecting info and your site's not on HTTPS, that's not good. You could potentially get a penalty. We actually saw somebody get that just a week or two ago. And then the other thing that you need to know is that HTTPS makes your website rank better. There's very, very strong correlations with the highest ranking websites and HTTPS. And if you have more questions on that, please check out the guide that we have listed here. I did a video on it, and it talks about most of the things that you need to know for switching to HTTPS. One thing I would say, if you migrate your website from HTTP to HTTPS, there's a good chance you could really mess it up and screw up your rankings and kind of lose some traffic. So be careful, read the guide. If you need help, please reach out to us. That's what we do. But now we're getting into Amazon a bit. And Alan, we've been doing a ton of Amazon here. Tell us about Amazon.
Yeah, just living in a bubble all this time, you know what Amazon is, but it's the leading product search. I mean, basically that you're one of those almost sleeping giants. I always felt like that people almost forgot about Amazon, and now there's a big push, and we're doing now here Amazon SEO that's getting really good results. So essentially, they have their own ranking algorithms that they use, and just like every other search engine, you have to optimize for them. So basically, it's a virtual mall. You can get anything on there for the most part. And a lot of brands not only sell their products on their website, but they also have to compete by selling their products on Amazon. So basically, just make sure you're optimizing your product listings, imagery, reviews, or another thing. It's like a factor that's not necessarily in Google, but is in Amazon, is a huge part of it, the review sections. And then you can bundle products together and you run ads. I mean, there's a whole set of strategies that come around with Amazon products. So make sure you're on top of them. If you're not, let us know. We'll help you out.
And so just to clarify, and there's a great response there, optimizing every single product, making sure you've got the right amount of content on Amazon, right? Because that's a ranking factor. Generating reviews. There's specific ways to go about doing that are within Amazon's guidelines, right? Making sure that you're making plenty of sales on Amazon. The more sales that you have, the higher you rank. Getting into Prime because it's easier for people to buy, right? Looking at these automated bidding platforms and inventory management systems that integrate with Amazon can help you take it to the next level. We have a client right now selling between 3,000 and 7,000 products a day on Amazon, and it is so fun to watch. So there's big money to be made there, I have to tell you. And it's really like Google was back in the day. And another thing that people don't really realize about Amazon too is that it's international, right? So you can sell on Amazon in the UK, in Canada, not just the US. So it's a lot like international SEO in that way, but just on a different website outside of Google. And then, as we're talking about different websites here, right, and talking about different places and different search engines that are important, because it's not just Google, right? It's Google, it's Bing, it's Amazon, it's Facebook. Facebook has gotten more and more searches every single year. And I got to tell you, this is something that you need to watch, and I'll tell you why. Because with Facebook Instant Articles, they're digesting content in there, and people are not leaving Facebook as often. With Facebook buying a bunch of video programming now, and they're going to be serving it inside of Facebook, they're actually going to be a competitor to Netflix now. That's going to keep more people on Facebook, right? With Facebook's shopping feature, with their pages, with their places, I can't tell you how many people don't fully optimize their places listing inside of Facebook. So what you see here are 11 different ways that you can be listed inside of Facebook, and each one of them have individual methodologies. And I would say that almost every business out there is leaving potential traffic on the table by not fully taking advantage of Facebook. So whether you're making an application, whether you're listing your event, whether you've created a group so that every single time you do an update, people get notifications, it's certainly a search engine that you need to pay attention to and have an ad strategy associated with it. We've got some clients doing very well with Facebook ads. So now we're talking about branded search a little bit, and this is going back specifically to Google. And Alan, when we say branded search, why does it matter? Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so basically with brand search, it's essentially mentioning your name, right? And of course that's going to be obviously coming up in most cases, I should say, in the searches, but people are going to be associating your brand and your name with words that are around that name, around your product. I've seen this happen plenty of times where the more the client became kind of popular in social media, in other alternative media forms like radio. I'm trying to think of an example, but like Casper mattresses, for example. There's a lot of buzz on podcasts and other alternative media forms, and not just trying to rank for mattresses online. And they're seeing great results in searches based around now that their brand is associated with mattresses, right? So definitely pay attention to your brand. I think people forget that the brand is the thing that's driving your entire business. So essentially, if your name becomes synonymous with words, I want to use really strong examples, but like Xerox and Google itself, the brand is associated with search. So essentially, the more you can tie your brand in to what people are looking for, specifically with your words, then your name is going to be synonymous with that word, and you'll generate a lot more traffic when people search for your name.
Well said, and that's why you have to run viral campaigns. That's why you have to have marketing that generates buzz. That's why creating, these meme videos that, GQ just had an awesome one the other day on Donald Trump, but that go out there and go viral and then have people searching for your brand. That actually contributes to your rankings, right? So if I get more people searching for Ignite visibility, then that's going to make me rank higher. That is a ranking factor. Just a quick side note, I got 2 questions, one on Pinterest and one on HTTPS. Those are both great questions. I'm going to make sure that we cover those towards the end, so thank you. So Penguin, if you guys don't know what Penguin is an algorithm that basically made it so that for the last 2 years, websites who had built bad backlinks, right? So they had built links to their website with too much anchor text. So what I mean by that is if you own like an engagement ring online store and you built a ton of links with the term engagement rings, pointing at your website, right, inside of the actual text hyperlink, then you could have gotten a penguin penalty, kicked out of Google for that term engagement rings, and then just in general, if you had a lot of bad links, it would weigh your website down, right? So we had people coming to us, and you know, they would want to have this fixed. And the thing is that until about a couple months ago, you really could not fix it fully. You could prepare yourself, but the Penguin algorithm had to run again. The Penguin algorithm has run again, right? So what has happened is all these other bad sites, or sites that had bad backlink profiles, they've started coming back, right, which is great. But what we want to drive home is that history is likely to repeat itself in this case. And what I mean by that is, don't think this is a get out of jail free card. Don't think that you can just go out there and start building a bunch of bad links. With artificial intelligence and all these things changing, linking is decreasing in importance anyways. Social factors and great content are the things, and thought leaderships are things you want to focus on, and a couple big links here and there to kind of drive it home. So that's an important point that we wanted to make. Also, along those same lines, I'm talking about quality content. Alan, when on this slide we talk about category versus product pages, what do we mean here?
So with category and product pages, essentially, when you're building a website, especially in the context of an e-commerce website, you have a category that leads to specific products. Make sure that we'd like to put content on there that serve those things up. But really, Google's looking for information, and they're trying to extract what you mean by certain things. And we're noticing more and more that articles or things that are providing answers to questions are starting to rank more for specific terms. Just as the example shown right here, SEO reporting, which is kind of a general word. Look at the websites that are putting up there. They're actually providing information, top 10 essentials, the 7 must-have SEO reports, etc. Ignite Visibility is up there with the 19 reports your boss may want to see. These are actually just articles about the tools. So this is why content's really important, because it's not just going to grab your categories and your products. It's just going to grab the information that thinks you want to, and then you can, in turn, put calls to action to your services, your categories, and your product itself.
Really well said. And just to drive that point home, I mean, so you see our ranking there. That's on the first page of Google for SEO reporting, right? So people think, that's bad, right? Because you would want to have a URL that's meant just specifically for conversions there. But what people don't realize is that you can grab anybody online. Excuse me. So what I mean by that is somebody can come to this page, and then I can cookie them, and then I can remarket to them, right, throughout the internet. So I can serve them Ignite Visibility remarketing ads. That's where our paid media department comes in. Somebody can land here, and I can have a pop-up, an exit pop-up come that captures their email address. Now they're inside of our drip funnel, right, and we're sending them emails over time. They can become a potential customer down the road, right? So for us, we want to educate. We want to get content out there that's important to people. And then at some point down the road, we're going to capture some information to them, and then we're going to hit them a couple times, build that relationship with them, and eventually convert them into a paying customer, hopefully, or we'll just do some good and teach some people some information. Now this one is just a quick technical one. I don't want to spend a ton of time on it, but Ajax and JavaScript have long been a major issue for Google, okay? So what does that mean? Well, websites are built in a whole bunch of different ways. If you built it in Ajax and JavaScript, there's major issues with it being indexed. Google used to have 2 ways to do it. One was called the escape fragment optimization. I'm not going to go too in-depth into that, but basically they got rid of that, so you can't do that anymore. And that you would know if you had that because you would have like a number sign and an exclamation mark in the URLs on your website. They're still allowing for something called push date. Push date is what Pinterest uses, and that's what you use when you have infinite scroll. So basically, if the website keeps scrolling down and down and down, basically what it does is it changes from page to page inside of the URL, and push date triggers that, right? So the main thing we want to make sure everybody knows is that if you build a website that's super heavy in Ajax or JavaScript, you need to have a HTML base. So if you disable Ajax or JavaScript inside of your browser, you want to be able to see some text in there. some optimized images, all the normal framework that you need for ranking. Otherwise, it's just not going to be successful. So if you have any questions about that one, because that one does get pretty technical, it's just something I've dealt with a lot, make sure to ask, and we'll be happy to answer it. Alan, tell us about the Mobile First Index.
Yes, Mobile First Index is a very recent development. Basically, up until now, Google would look at terms and forms of your desktop first, and then the mobile experience. But now that's switching, and it hasn't officially switched yet, so it's about to switch though. And now it's basically saying, how's your mobile experience first, and then your desktop experience. And mobile is not just your phone, but think about tablets and phablets and those type of things. So basically, you want to make sure that you are catering to that mobile audience. It's becoming so much more increasingly important. Responsive design. Make sure you can have a lot more, AMP might be a factor for you here. And make sure your mobile site is well optimized. I'm seeing still, to this day, people aren't hip on the mobile thing, and they really need to be. You need to get that design optimized, make it friendly for the mobile audience.
Big deal, everybody. It's Mobile First Index happening this year. If you don't have a mobile site, you're in deep trouble. If you have a mobile subdomain, an MDOT, and a www, you could also be in big trouble, right? Because what you've been doing is basically using this certain type of optimization that might not be too effective for the future. Specifically, I don't want to talk too over anybody's head, but there's something called a rel canonical from the mobile site to the desktop site. If you're going to be ranking it by mobile first, you're not going to want to have that in place. You're going to want to have everything that you have to rank on your desktop site moved over to your mobile site. In the past, Google has been ranking websites based off of desktop first, not mobile first. So this is a huge reason to go big on AMP, like we talked about earlier, accelerated mobile pages. This is a huge reason to make sure that you're on responsive design, and that you've got good UX, and that you've got good page speed, and all that good stuff. Alan, international SEO?
Yes, international SEO. So basically, do you want to cater to audiences that are speaking different languages or are in different countries, and even different countries that speak the same language, so England, the UK, and Australia, for example? Then you want to make sure that you have pieces of your website that are catered to them. This is really, it's tough to do if you don't know what you're doing, but it's an easy win for you. We can see the example here. We did this with a client, and they increased their leads like 700%. So basically, just translate your pages into new language that you think that your users would go to, and then now you have a whole set of other pages that are optimized for that language. So if your English site's doing really well, then why wouldn't it do well in Spanish? And so we have a whole effective method of doing that. You got to use certain tags and certain things, so it can be tricky. You don't want to create duplicate content that splits your authority between these things. But if you do the right tags and use the right processes, you can get some really, really big wins with this.
One of our clients, one of our first clients, a good friend, he works at one of the largest e-commerce providers online, and he hired us, and they wanted to go big. So we wanted to come up with some big ideas for them. So what we did is we translated their website into 27 different languages, and we hit 27 different countries over the period of about a year or so. We increased their leads over 700%. It was one of the most fun projects I've worked on in international SEO. It was a lead generation-based site, so it takes out a lot of the complexity of doing this on an e-commerce site or potentially a branding site. I don't take all the credit for that. A great member of our team, Danielle here, also did very well. Shout out to her. But this was a great example, and if anybody would like to see that case study, I welcome you to see it. The main point I'd like to drive home is if your website's only in English in the United States, you're missing out on 50% of the United States because you're not in the Spanish version of Google, and you haven't hit any other countries, and it is actually not hard to do this optimization. What we do is we basically translate the page, make sure it's optimized for the right keywords. There's a couple technical things you do. There's something called like a hreflang tag. You get that going, you launch it, and then over time, you get it launched, it ranks, and if it's a non-competitive keyword, you'll go right to the top. A lot of these other countries, it's twice as easy to rank in. It's one of my favorite strategies. There's actually a link to a video on it at the bottom of that slide. Alan, would you like to talk about longer content?
Yeah, so we've talked about content a lot here, and I believe that a lot of times it's beaten into the ground when you talk about content. But this is true. You flesh out your content, make something really palatable for multiple people, you're going to get better rankings. And so essentially, if you're writing really short articles, sometimes that works in certain contexts. There's nothing wrong with doing that, but definitely you want to flesh out certain ideas because the longer content does seem to rank better, and we've proven it statistically with clients and our own website. That being said, don't write long content for the sake of long content. Make sure it actually has some quality information in there. So essentially, if you were writing 3 articles about the same topic, just merge them into one good one. I think that's a lot better and more effective. And then again, like I said before, you can repurpose that somehow into different pieces of content. So a long piece of content of copy could be converted into, say, like an infographic, for example. So essentially, just make sure that you're adding a few more paragraphs to your short content.
How about optimize images, Alan?
Yeah, so basically, it's one of those quick wins. Google and search engines cannot see inside the image itself, right? The technology is getting there, but it's not quite there yet. So you make sure you actually are naming the image and also using this is kind of old school tactics, putting your alt text. So the alt basically labels the image what it is. And one of my favorite parts about this is that Google's image search has changed a bit so that certain queries pull up different categorization. So now they recognize that certain things. So in this one, we put superheroes, and you can actually see that, is it comic book, is it watercolor, there's different categories. Is it Marvel? In some cases, is it a blue superhero? Is it a red one? And then you can actually get, in some cases, I like to use that for keyword ideas. If the categories are certain things, and if people are coming up with these categories, then maybe you develop content around that and include imagery in there. So essentially, just name your images properly, add the right keyword descriptions, and use the alt attribute.
That's right. And the only thing I'd add to that is that the future of the internet is 2 types of media. It's video and it's images, right? So if you don't have your images optimized, you're leaving money on the table. You need an image sitemap, right? You need alt attribute. You might want to put in image metadata as well. And these things really do matter quite a bit. When I'm working with a large site, maybe thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions of pages, one of the things we like to do is something called a dynamic keyword assignment. What that means is we basically create a set of rules so that we know that we're going to optimize the title, description, the images, and based off of a set of principles. One of those things would be the images. So you can actually, on a large site, based off of like a product name or based off of a category name or subcategory name, you can what we call dynamically optimize all your images at once. So doing that in the past, it's something that's been really successful. Take a look at your images, make sure your file name, your alt text, all that stuff is correct. And this plays a big role inside of just the image search area, but also what we're seeing now, and this is on mobile. We talked about this being a new mobile world, right? Is that images are being served inside of mobile next to the result, and that's a big deal, right? Because if I do a search for something like motocross boots, and I'm on my phone and I see one motocross boot that I like and another one that I don't, that's going to have a major impact on my click-through rate, right? Click-through rate, again, important for artificial intelligence. As you can see, all this stuff's full circle, right? So you want to make sure that you do have these images correctly associated with each page, and a really important thing for the future of search. And I just talked about a little bit, images. Alan did as well. Video and multimedia, also super important. So video is the fastest growing form of content that's being digested online. People don't have time. They frankly, it kind of hurts me, but they don't want to read my 3,000 word blogs sometimes, right? Because they're just too long, right? So, and I respect that because I'm busy, you guys are busy. Why not take a video and put it at the top of that blog, right? So you can get that information digested really quickly, right? And optimize those videos with, a video sitemap, the correct video file name, and video schema, right? Alan, are you feeling the same way about video that I am?
Oh, for sure. I'm a huge fan of the video because it's one of those things that, AI digests it a certain way, and B, you can see it in your social media feeds more apparently now, and it's a lot easier to get integrated into your Instagram and into your Facebook feeds. People are showing videos, and they're using the videos and putting text in them. So it's interesting. So you don't even have to have the sound on to see what's going on, and people can get their information in a different way. And then again, like I said, video is probably one of the hardest things to do and do right. So if you're doing that, you're ahead of your curve. You can also repurpose that content. You can just, basically transcribe it. Now it's a blog, cut it up into pieces. It could be a slideshow. A lot of things you can do with video and multimedia content. Rip out the audio, make it a podcast or some kind of online lesson tutorial or something. I mean, again, content is not just the copy. All these things are being digested by multiple, media forms and television and Roku. Think about Netflix and that type of thing. Your phone, your everywhere you're getting this stuff. It's like if you're on top of the video game, you're probably going to be ahead of your competitors.
That's right, and that's why we've made a major investment here in video production, short micro clips for Pinterest for clients, right? For Pinterest, for Facebook, for Instagram, longer educational availability for options for YouTube. So make sure you're taking a look at video. The last thing I'll say on video is the video advertising is super cheap, right? So you can get hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube for like a commercial or an educational thing that you make for probably, I would say, like less than 0.5% what you would pay for television. And so you can blast your face out there all over the place or your commercial. So switching gears a little bit, and by the way, we're kind of winding down here, so we won't be too much longer. I appreciate everybody staying on. It looks like nobody's dropped off, which is, I'm so happy you're engaged. We worked hard on this. We're talking a little bit about local SEO here. Alan, how's local changed? What are you seeing? What are some of your notes on local this year?
Yeah, I mean, local is a really big factor for the people who have brick and mortar stores. I mean, you really got to be paying attention to it. There's multiple factors that go into it. I actually have a whole lesson plan in the course that I teach that just talks about the mobile. Have your HTML page for each location. That's one big thing people sometimes forget. They put all their locations in one page. Do it individually. Google My Business. Google Local. It's a confusing thing as it is. You still need to get up on top of it. Even Bing has their own version of it. Moz, Local, will help you develop directory links and links going back to your local pages, or Yex is another version of that. Bird Eye, John, I'll let you talk about Bird Eye because Bird Eye is like one of those great things, but I'll follow up with Schema. Schema markup is a huge thing for local businesses, and you saw some of those things that we showed you on the recipes, but with local, it's very apparent that Schema is being used for the local searches. And then make sure you're embedding your maps. Actually, a few of our clients are really successful because we built these pages that have maps, have really great information, the hours, and then mark them up with Schema. And all of a sudden now their rate increases. They're just getting way more new users. They're getting increase in contact pages, and brick and mortars, that's their lifeblood. You basically have to be in the area, of course, but aside from that, there's going to be a lot of people that are in your area that have a similar business, so you're going to stand out from your competitors.
Well said. Yeah, and we work with a lot of local clients here, right? Ignite, we're 100% custom solutions. We work with a lot of local clients, one being Fix Auto USA, another being Mission Federal Credit Union, another being Urgent Care Extra. All of them have, another being, there's, at least 30 or 40 clients that have that local element. What you're looking at here is Fix Auto USA. You can see their growth. By working with us, we've increased their traffic over 457%, and their goals over 756%. Just a great client. I was actually up there in Seattle last week, doing a presentation to a bunch of their franchisees. With local, Alan touched on a lot of the stuff. What he didn't touch on is Bird Eye, so I'll touch on that quickly. This is another company that we have a relationship with, and we get huge discounts for the platform, over 30%, and then we actually manage this, just like we would manage like a Moz Local or something for a client. And what that allows us to do is aggregate all the reviews online and then take that and put that into one place so that you've got a positive connotation online. It also allows you to monitor those reviews so that if there's one that you don't like, you could park it, stuff like that. And it's great for local clients. We can also use the schema from Bird Eye to put on your website. That schema being the review schema that would allow you to show a rich snippet or stars inside of Google. Bird Eye, great option.
Really great option.
So bringing this kind of home, we just got a couple last things to talk about here before I get into our last slide, which talks about things outside of SEO that I also think that you should be focusing on. Just some stuff that I know really works, so I'm excited to talk to you about that. We won't spend too much time on this. Make sure you're going through Google Search Console. You're looking at your click-through rates inside of the Search Analytics report. Look at your titles, your meta descriptions. If some of them have really low click-through rates, make sure you go in and fixing those, right? And what I mean by that is you go in, you jazz it up, you make it a better title, better description, you get higher click-through rates, rank brain, artificial intelligence picks all this stuff up, you start ranking higher, and you start getting more traffic, right? Great exercise and something that we are not the only SEOs who have talked about. And that plays into better design and UX, right, Alan?
Yeah, for sure. Basically, you want a great user experience. That's one of the factors that I notice that a lot of people forget about. And I think that Google is paying more attention to how people are maneuvering through your website and the value they're getting out of it. And if you have a better user experience, again, it goes back to the responsive design, having the smooth, clean, good page load times, your site architecture. I stress this a lot in the course because I think that's the factor that I think gets ignored. A lot of people talk content, a lot of people talk backlinks, but your site architecture, how people maneuver within your website, is a huge factor. And if you don't have the proper usage, then people are going to get discouraged and go on to your competitor that does. So essentially, Google's algorithm and their artificial intelligence is trying to gauge the intent, and if the intent is easy and maneuverable, they're tapping into analytics, they're tapping into the user resources. It's increasingly important, and it's becoming more and more important with this Google AI coming up. So analyze your user behavior in Google Analytics if you're using Google Analytics or any other analytics software, and also if you go the extra mile, you can use heat mapping. And just things like Crazy Egg and a few other softwares that allow you to see how people are clicking on which buttons, and maybe you gather some insight around that so you can make improvements to your website.
Yeah, and I highly recommend everybody installs, if you're on a WordPress site or like Shopify or one of these like common CMSs, use SumoMe. It is the coolest. You can heat map, you can do pop-ups, you can do so much stuff. Crazy Egg's great too. Had a great recommendation of something called Hotjar the other day by Josh here at Ignite, very smart guy.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of options out there. But and the other thing that you should know is inside of Google Analytics, you can actually see the visitor journey now, which is so cool. So you can see where somebody lands, what pages they went to, and you can follow visitors throughout that process. And then it's also very important to have funnels that are set up so you know that these buckets are leading people into this direction for this specific customer journey, and dialing all that stuff in together. If you don't take the time, you're certainly leaving conversions on the table. So now we're in our last slide, and we've been answering a couple questions along the way. After this slide, we'll go through those questions. Please feel free to load up the questions now so we can have some time to do that after this last slide. Couple bonus items for you, because it's not just about SEO. It can't be for a lot of different reasons. You've got to have a good business model. People need to want your stuff. It's not the old days when we can just when somebody would just spam a site to the top and you're making money. But other things that I want you to take away, we do, is an email capture strategy. Emails are gold for so many different reasons. You can use them to create lookalike audiences on Facebook. You can use them to target people through Gmail. You can use them to target people who are doing searches inside of Google. You can use them to advertise to people on YouTube. If you have somebody's email, you can hit them anywhere, right? So you need an email capture strategy for your website. A lot of that comes from blogging, from content marketing. And then as you're doing that, making sure you're monetizing that side, right? So we have a client who we recently put up an exit pop-up for, and they went from capturing almost nothing to over 4,000 email addresses a day, right? If you think of that, I mean, an email address is worth, around $5. That's a huge, huge monetary value. Alan, when we're talking about stuff like that and white paper downloads and things like that for clients, I mean, don't you feel that that's something we need to do? Every business should have that strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. And email marketing, and it was one of those things I spoke to someone on an interview a while back when we were doing the show, is that, email, there's a renaissance in email. marketing, because for whatever reason people were thinking that wasn't the way to capture people because email is so full of spam. But now it's not. Now people are getting their information and absorbing it. And if you produce a really quality email, like a newsletter, for example, one of the I've seen clients that have these giant spikes in traffic through their newsletter because they do it the right way. They say, all right, I got all like aggregated my blog and my useful information that you might want to see either every week or every other week. And it allows you to kind of recapture your audience and become kind of a thought leader. So definitely get into the white paper downloads, the e-course, provide value for people, and then they'll give you their email. They'll volunteer that they want to be spoken to later to buy your products or to enlist in your services. And especially if you have a business that's not an immediate sell. Our business here is not, people aren't just going to buy it online. They have to talk with us. There's a lot of process they have to go through before you become a client. And so email for us is one of those big, really great ideas. And so if you notice that, if you go to the Ignite Visibility's blog, there's a lot of valuable information there that comes through emails and newsletters that people just are really feeding into. And so that's why we focus really heavily on doing these email marketing campaigns.
Email huge, right, for lead generation sites, and then also for e-commerce sites. Like for e-commerce sites, I can see if you land on a category page, I can see exactly what you landed on. I can cookie you. In my next email, I can send an email to you with specific offers on that, and then I can also use data that I have to show you similar products, right, that other people bought who bought that one product, right? Email within the life cycle of the customer journey. When you know that your customer runs out of your product after 3 months, you need to be hitting them with an email to get them back engaged, right, and to make more sales. We've got a great email department here, excellent email director, and also I have a personal email for Ignite that I send out. I do it myself every Thursday, and you should please go ahead and subscribe to that. I'd love to give you guys some information that way. So a couple other quick things. Invest in video. We talked a ton about it. It's the fastest growing medium. It's what people want to digest. It's right for social. I know everybody on this call, you're following people who are kicking butt with video. We want you to do the same thing. Make sure you're running creative social media campaigns, right? Something that's feel good to the community, or something that gets your customer base engaged. We try to do at least one a quarter for clients. And then the last thing that we'll say is it's about SEO, but it's a larger thing. And the more years I'm in online marketing, the more we see that. Integrate it all together, right? Have a 3 to 6 month plan and sit down with your whole team that talks about how you're integrating your social media campaigns with your SEO, with your email, with your paid media, with your offline advertising, and take all that, break it down, look at your traffic numbers, how that's going to increase your conversion rates, and how it's going to help your business, right? So that's kind of the name of the game. Alan, before we get into questions, anything else that you wanted to kind of touch on here?
No, this is all great stuff. And like, again, your content marketing, SEO, all these things are going to roll up together. You really have to pay attention that SEO is a tool in your toolbox, a very major tool, because it actually is the foundation for a lot of these other tools. You optimize your website, you create a better user experience, you add the right content, all of your other pieces of content are going to perform better. Just simple as that.
Awesome. So on this last slide, we're going to get into questions in just one moment here. We've got actually a ton of questions. Thanks so much for asking. If you want to follow us on Twitter, we're IgniteV. If you'd like to follow me, I'm John E. Lincoln. Alan is Alan H. Bush. Please follow our blog. And if you're interested in any of the services that we're talking about here, email sales@ignitevisibility.com, and we will be happy to help you out, give you a free consultation on any of that stuff. So now let's jump into some of these questions. So the first one that we have here is, what's the plugin again for the heat sensor on WordPress? There's a couple. I mentioned SumoMe, which I feel is very good. Alan, you mentioned a couple other ones. Which were those?
Yeah, actually, Hotjar is one of the other ones you just mentioned. I almost forgot about that one. That's a great one because it's technically free for the first bit of it, and has a lot of great information. I did mention Crazy Egg as well. I feel like Hotjar probably could do the same thing. And another creepy one is called ClickTail. I say creepy because you can track individual users and see their journey throughout your website. So that's a really kind of fun one that has heat mapping as well as this other layer feature. But where you can actually follow individual users. SumoMe is probably my favorite, though.
Suomi has a lot more elements to it that you can also use. Somebody also asked if we like BrightEdge. BrightEdge is a great enterprise platform. It's super expensive. For me personally, I kind of like search metrics and for a larger one personally, but BrightEdge is very good, and if you're smaller, then you definitely don't need BrightEdge. So that would be my answer for you there. Somebody asked, would you consider to code in HTML5 and CSS3 for animation instead of JavaScript? For your animation, I don't think that. Look, I mean, I would say forget about it. Right, all your animation, count that as not something that's going to help you rank. Instead, make sure that you look at your framework that is actually the text that's inside of the page that renders before your JavaScript, your Ajax, your HTML5, your CSS, right? What's the bare bones of the site that is there that Google can crawl before all this other stuff happens on the page? Now, I think CSS3 and HTML5. I think that you actually do maybe have a little bit of I can't actually tell you that because Google is picking up JavaScript better every day too. Alan, I'm not sure if you have any thoughts on that. I think they're about equal.
I think you're right
about the framework.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think the only exception, or maybe kind of like where that might be reversed, is like if you have a parallax website and your entire website kind of built on that framework, then the HTML5 and CSS are going to be really important because that's how all your content is going to be rendered essentially. A lot of times with the JavaScript, it's usually for certain features that are on the website. So if you have just a couple of different animations that are sitting on certain things, then like John said, pay more attention to the framework. But if your entire website is built on this kind of animation-rich platform, then the HTML5 CSS right now is probably your the go-to.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much, everybody. That was our last question. I just want to tell you one more thing before you leave. We're going to be doing more webinars. We've got a social media one coming up. We've got a paid media one coming up. And we also plan on doing an Amazon webinar. So please, the best way to stay in touch with all that stuff is to subscribe to our newsletter, and you'll make sure you get great information there. Also follow the blog and follow us on social media. Again, if we can help you in any way, sales@ignitevisibility.com. Or feel free to just shoot me a message on Twitter or LinkedIn and make sure to follow us. Thanks so much for being a part of this today. If you have any questions after this, you can also just email Alan or myself directly, and we'll point you in the right direction. Alan at ignitevisibility.com and John at ignitevisibility.com. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great day, and see you next time.
See you next time.